were outlaws. You know, there was no such thing as PC in the 70s. There was, we ran the studio. I didn't want to do it, actually. I wanted to play Starsky. I thought that the blonde guy was pretty boring.
But the blonde is the one that all the ladies like, though.
Is that what you think I do? I don't hate ladies. I hate ladies. Do I look like a guy who likes ladies?
So tell me, how long did you work with Aaron Spelling?
That's a hard thing to say because Spelling was one of those characters in Hollywood that doesn't exist too much anymore. In that he was, he reused his people. He created a kind of family of actors. So I did lots of shows with him. So you can't really say how long. You know, I did Starsky and Hutch, obviously, and I did shows prior, other series. And I did shows after, and did another series for him later. So, but he was it's kind of ironic in a way. He was to television, in a way, in terms of his innovations and his formulaic approach to television. Not unlike the character I'm playing in Mac and Mabel, Mac Sennett, who was the king of comedy, who developed a formula for comedy. So it's kind of funny. The two had a lot in common, and they both were part of a breed, a dying breed. I mean, he was a filmmaker. He always wanted to be a writer, and he fancied himself that way. I don't think he was that good a writer, frankly, and I think but he kind of secretly wanted to be a writer all of his life. He created ideas. He was an idea man, and then he fulfilled them.
And the man himself, what was he like to work with?
He's very diminutive, very small man. Had a very big office. If you weren't careful, if he didn't look well, you might miss him in his office, actually. He sort of peered over the top of his desk like that, smoked a pipe, so where you saw the smoke come up, that's where Aaron was. He was genuinely interested in his artists, his actors. And I think in his heyday was very, very, very supportive. He had a very tough set of rules and regulations that he liked to have followed, which was all part of his formula.
So a bit of a taskmaster then, in some ways?
No. He was too small to be a taskmaster. But if he was a taskmaster, he did it behind closed doors. He had his henchmen do it. Although in the 70s, which you're too young to remember that, but the 70s was a period of were outlaws. There was no such thing as PC in the 70s. There was, we ran the studio. I mean, and they would pull their hair out. What are the guys doing? What are the Cats and Jammer kids doing now? And Aaron went along with it. He liked that kind of rebelliousness to some degree. He liked to be part of the team of guys, And so he was rather supportive and encouraging. Yeah, and loyal. Oh, sorry, we're doing an interview.
Thank you. Do you have, just talking a bit there about the past, do you have any particular fond memories of him or a time together?
There's probably one telling story, and it too has a kind of resonance with Max Sennett, who, when talkies came in, silent movies disappeared, and with it, Max Sennett was forgotten. I did a series with him in the late 80s. Was it late 80s? I don't really remember. I guess it was mid 80s, called Harry's Hong Kong. It was a pilot for a new series. And I remember coming into this big office of his, and like I said before, looking for him, and there he is. He said, "David, have a seat." And he came over, he sat down, and we're sitting across from each other on the sofa. Lit up his pipe, and he said, things are really different now. There's nobody to talk to. And in a way, there was what happened was that the business itself had gone through a huge transformation. He was a filmmaker. The people now who ran the business were all businessmen, accountants and lawyers, and that were not real filmmakers. And he wanted to talk film. He wanted to talk ideas, story. He wanted to talk that kind of thing. And there were nobody was around to talk that kind of way because they were always worried about the bottom line. He was too, let's face it, because he made a fortune out of formula. And chiefly, one of the chief people responsible for exporting American culture, style, fashion, all this kind of stuff. I mean, from Dynasty to Heart to Heart. Yeah.
Issues that will always be
So he exported this stuff for better or for worse, whichever way you choose to look at it. He sort of imposed himself on the rest of the world. I remember Starsky and Hutch coming out here first. I mean, there was only 3 channels here at that time in England.
But Starsky and Hutch, I mean, it was huge. It will always be huge. You must have been proud to be part of something like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course I am. At the time that it first came out, who led the way about getting this stuff seen internationally? Aaron Spelling. He was the biggest independent producer, producing more hours of television than any company. Universal, Paramount, MGM, you name it. Spelling was the biggest. So, and he was also responsible he was like the guy who kind of led the way about in terms of exporting and syndicating this stuff internationally.
I mean, you talked a bit there about his filmmaking skills and his innovation. I mean, is there anything that comes to mind, any ways in which he was particularly different to other producers or particularly innovative?
He found a formula that worked, and he stuck with it. He just stayed with it. And all of his shows were like carbon copies from the other ones. You could just you take old scripts from Mod Squad, let's say, or from Heart to Heart or whatever, and rewrite it and hand it into Starsky and Hutch or hand it into Charlie's Angels, or you take a Starsky and Hutch script and give it to Charlie's Angels. Of course, there was some fresh new ideas that should be also said, but I think it was hanging in with a formula that he created that worked and made a lot of money for him.
I mean, some would say, they're a bit fluffy, though, his ideas and the things he did.
Huh?
Perhaps, trying to denigrate what he did in some ways. I mean, what would you say?
Well, I mean, it's a matter of taste, It's hard to denigrate a guy who has, there's so many good things about him. It's hard to denigrate a person. I mean, I don't do that. I don't find that that's even a significant observation, to say denigrate somebody for what. He had a formula that worked. Sometimes it worked to my liking, and sometimes it just didn't. But that was my taste. He allowed that. I mean, we went in Starsky and Hutch the last 2 years, we fought tooth and nail to raise the quality, what we thought the quality of the scripts should be. He went along with it. Now, how can I denigrate that? You got to fight your battles. Creative battles have to be battled. They have to be battled fairly, but they have to be battled. Stand up.
Whenever Aaron first approached you about Starsky and Hutch and kind of put the formula on the table, what kind of conversations did you have with him? Were you both excited about it?
I didn't want to do it, actually. I wanted to play Starsky. I thought that the blonde guy was pretty boring. He's kind of white bread. I said, he saw me in a film called Magnum Force with Clint Eastwood, and sent me the script and said, I want you to play Hutch in this new series. I didn't want to read it. And I came back to him and I said, no, I want to play Hutch. I want to play the other guy. He says, no, you're not. No. So after a while, I sort of caved in, and then that's the rest is history.
But the blonde is the one that all the ladies like, though.
Is that what you think I do? I don't hate ladies. I hate ladies. Do I look like a guy who likes ladies? That, I must say, is very shallow. A comment about that. No. We found a way, Paul and I working together found a way to make it to make the show, well, our own. What he did allow, what Spelling did allow, was for our own innovation, our own improvisation. When he saw where that was going and how the chemistry of the show was working, he gave us rein. He gave us the freedom to do it. We had to fight for it, but that's good. You know, if you fight for something you believe in, and you're not doing something just different, but you're doing something better, that's worth fighting for. Particularly in most areas of life, but certainly it's obvious in film and television and so forth.
Absolutely, absolutely well said. I've got everything I need. Is there anything you'd like to add that you think I haven't
No,
gone over?
I just it's just so ironic to be playing a character in the moment. There are so many parallels between Max Sennett and Aaron Spelling, and to walk off the stage having just played Max Sennett to talk to you about Aaron Spelling is kind of a kind of a weird kind of thing. But that's it. I'm happy to have known him. There are very few of him left. Very, very few.
You made such a mark.
But he had a life. He had a long life. 83 years old, and God bless him.